Welcome back, everybody. My name is Tucker, and in today's video, we have a Dallas Mavericks NBA trade machine. I tweeted out the other day for some trade ideas from you guys in terms of what the Dallas Mavericks should do this offseason via a trade. We got a report last week saying that the Mavs are willing to trade anybody not named Luka Doncic or Kristaps Porzingis on this roster in order to move up in the draft or to get a third star to pair with those two players. And this is a team that looks to be dangerous not only next year, but moving forward into the future as well. Dallas is going to be a team to watch, and that's why I want to do a trade machine video on them. But really quickly before we get started, if you enjoy content like this, then consider subscribing. I upload twice a day, every day. It is a great place for consistent NBA content, and leaving a like rating is a great way to let me know that you're enjoying the content, and it helps out the video a ton as well. You can also check me out on the various socials that I have at the bottom of the screen, whether that be Discord, Twitch, or Twitter. All those are a great place to interact with me outside of these videos. With that said, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, let's just go ahead and get the craziest trade out of the way, and it is from our guy Eduardo, who has sent us some absolutely nutty trades in the past. And in this one, the Indiana Pacers, Atlanta Hawks, Dallas Mavericks, and New Orleans Pelicans are all involved. The Pacers received Dwayne Dedmon, Dorian Finney-Smith, the 6th pick in the draft, and the Mavericks pick in the 2020 draft as well. The Hawks are getting Jrue Holiday. I like that fit. The Mavericks are getting Victor Oladipo. I also like that fit. And the Pelicans are getting Myles Turner, a 2022 Oklahoma City first from Atlanta, and a 2020 second round pick via Miami, also from Atlanta. Okay, so let's look at this first for Indiana, because I think that's the team that I have the most questions about. So they're giving up Oladipo and Turner. And I mean, Dwayne Dedmon is pretty much irrelevant here. Finney-Smith is, he's an okay role player wing. 6th pick in the draft. That's really nice to have. And the extra pick as well in the first round in 2020. But I question if that's enough. Even with the high draft pick, even with the 6th overall pick in the draft, I question if that's enough for Indiana to pull the trigger here. For Atlanta, I love the Jrue Holiday fit there in Atlanta alongside Trae Young. I think that would be a perfect fit as a veteran guy that can really lead a lot of the young players that they have there. Assuming that he stays healthy, that would be a huge pickup for them. And yeah, they're giving up the 6th pick in this draft. They're giving up a future first as well. But at a certain point, like, you have enough young players on the roster and you need to start bringing in proven NBA guys to really grow and develop those younger players. And that's kind of the move that Dallas would be making here. For the Mavericks, they're giving up Finney-Smith and their own first round pick, and they're getting back Victor Oladipo, which I think is the best value of any team in this trade. And realistically, they'll probably have to give up something else, probably send it to Indiana to kind of sweeten the pot a little bit here, because to get Oladipo for a middling first round pick and Dorian Finney-Smith is pretty good value in my opinion if you're Dallas. And then for the Pelicans, I really like the Myles Turner fit as well. Now you got to kind of figure out what the deal is with Jackson Hayes, and if you're just kind of pushing him into being a bench only big, because obviously Turner and Zion would be playing in the front court together. But if you're just ignoring the Jackson Hayes part of it and you're just putting Myles Turner into the starting lineup for this group, I like that fit. You need a 2022 first as well in exchange for Jrue Holiday. I think every team here would probably say yes to this, with the exception of Indiana. If you're the Mavericks and you throw in an extra pick going to Indiana, maybe they're more enticed, but every team kind of has a goal here. The Pacers want to reset a little bit, get some younger assets. The Hawks want a veteran and Jrue Holiday that fits with their roster. Ditto for the Mavericks. And the Pelicans are getting a nice 5-man that can grow and develop with this team moving forward. And they're getting a future first-round pick from OKC as well. All good things for me here. Again, Indiana's probably just falling behind here a little bit. Next up now is a trade that I came up with, in which the Mavericks received Jeremy Lamb and Victor Oladipo in exchange for Tim Hardaway Jr., DeLon Wright, Jalen Brunson, and a 2022 first-round pick. And the more I looked at an Oladipo to the Mavericks swap, I realized how limited the assets really are here for Dallas outside of, potential future first-round picks that they would trade away. But the conclusion that I came to was maybe Indiana would be willing to also give up Jeremy Lamb so that the Mavs can throw some more assets their way as well, and we can kind of beef up this trade package a little bit rather than just the typical Oladipo for Hardaway plus stuff package, right? So Jeremy Lamb unfortunately is hurt at the moment. When he returns from injury, can be a nice shooter for this Mavericks team as a floor spacer. And we all know what Victor Oladipo could do for this Mavs team as well. I've talked about it in multiple videos. For Indiana, they're getting Tim Hardaway Jr., who again is basically here for salary matching purposes. He's a fine player, could be moved at the trade deadline for some extra picks and stuff like that. But really, you're banking on, okay, DeLon Wright's a nice player. Jalen Brunson could be someone that maybe you look at as a nice option moving forward to the point guard spot. And then you're getting the 2022 pick from Dallas. Now, if you want to put the 2020 first from Dallas in here as well, I think they would absolutely do that. The only reason it's not included here is because it's easier for me to explain adding a pick rather than taking one away. I'm completely okay with putting another pick into this trade. It just kind of depends on where the Pacers are at with Oladipo, how desperate they are to move him or to not move him. But this would be one of those packages I would put together to potentially get Oladipo to Dallas. Next up now at number 3 is Matisse, who sent this over to me. He said that the Sixers received Seth Curry in exchange for Josh Richardson and a second-round pick via the Lakers. And this is, nice and simple when you're comparing this to Eduardo's trade in the very beginning. Nice, clean, and simple. The Sixers need shooting. The Mavericks need a two-way player that can guard, and each team is getting what they need here. I don't really know that there's too much else here to say. I feel like Sixers fans are going to look at this and think, Josh Richardson's probably the better player, but Seth Curry is a really good shooter. He can do a lot of good things for you offensively, and the Sixers need that spacing so badly. I love that Josh Richardson fit in Dallas as well. But there's really not a whole lot else to say here. I just thought it was a nice, good, clean trade, and I wanted to include it in the video. Next up now at number 4 is from Lake Show, and he says, if they want to go all in, why not? And they are certainly going all in. The Mavericks are getting Bradley Beal and Ish Smith, who I'm assuming is here for salary purposes, in exchange for basically every player and pick on the roster that's not Luka Doncic or Kristaps Porzingis. It's Tim Hardaway Jr., Dwight Powell, Boban, Dorian Finney-Smith, Jalen Brunson, a second-round pick, 3 firsts, and another second. Okay, so the Bradley Beal thing has been continually rumored. I think that Dallas is at least a pretty good fit because that takes a lot of the pressure off Luka to be, the dominant offensive guy every time down the floor. I like the fact that both those guys can really shoot the basketball. I like that fit together. And certainly, as he said, this is going all in. Now, for Washington, the value here resides in a little bit of Jalen Brunson, but mostly these future picks. And we've seen star trades like this come together, whether it's Anthony Davis or Paul George or whoever, where these future first-round picks are pretty much irrelevant to these GMs because they're like, if this works and we get Bradley Beal and we end up winning a title while Luka's here in his first handful of years, then I don't really care about our 2025 unprotected pick because if it doesn't work, I'm going to be fired anyway, right? So as crazy as this looks, I don't think it's an unrealistic option for Dallas given the history of star trades that we've seen in the NBA over the last couple of years. I think that there are better fits. They could get better value via trade for someone like Oladipo or Jrue Holiday in terms of what this roster really needs. But if you're just subscribing to the 3-star theory, Bradley Beal could certainly be an option for them, and this is a huge trade package for them to give up. I think Washington would at least take a look at this, considering the draft picks they would be getting back in return, and then they would just kind of dump the John Wall contract at some point and move forward with their extra picks and try to build something there in Washington. And last up now is a trade that I came up with in which the Mavericks receive Kevin Love in exchange for Tim Hardaway Jr., DeLon Wright, and Jalen Brunson. Big shocker. Those guys are involved in the deal here, right? So for the Mavs, this isn't an ideal scenario, in my opinion, in terms of, let's go get a 3rd star. I don't think Kevin Love is really what they have in mind in that scenario. But if they're just that desperate to bring in a 3rd star, right, and the Jrue Holiday, Victor Oladipo thing just isn't happening or whatever, if they're looking at their situation and thinking, we need to get a 3rd star this offseason, we don't think we're getting one next offseason, the salary cap space in 2021 is irrelevant to us, we want to get somebody now, there's not really a better buy low option out there than Kevin Love. Like, they're really not giving up anything here. Like, yeah, Tim Hardaway Jr. is a player in the rotation. DeLon Wright and Jalen Brunson are okay players, but they're not giving up any picks. They're not, they're taking on the big salary of Kevin Love. They're hoping he stays healthy. He can be a borderline all-star caliber player when he's right, and he's another really good offensive player. Now, defensively, yeah, they're going to have to figure some things out, but if they are just that desperate to get anybody this offseason, Kevin Love is a great option. For Cleveland, you're getting out from under the salary, which is huge because the Hardaway contract will expire next offseason. And then you're getting Jalen Brunson and DeLon Wright, who add to another group of guards in Cleveland that they're still trying to figure out between Colin Sexton, who looks good, Darius Garland, Kevin Porter Jr. Then you add these 2 guys in there as well. You can run 4-guard lineups for all I care. Cleveland just needs to figure out what they do and don't have, accumulate any assets that they can in any way. Maybe they can convince Dallas to throw them a second, maybe a 1st-round pick, but I think it's unlikely. And then you just roll from there, right? And I mean, getting out from under the Love contract is significant. It gives them flexibility to take on different contracts for assets down the road. And yeah, they just kind of figure it out from there. And Dallas, again, not an ideal scenario. I'm not necessarily even advocating for this, but if it really came down to it and they couldn't bring in anybody else and they wanted to keep their roster mostly intact, they don't want to trade away a million future picks, so they have the flexibility to potentially make another deal down the road, Kevin Love is an option. And yeah, there you have it. That is going to be the end of today's video, and I thank you all very much for watching. Once again, my name is Tucker. If you missed any of my previous videos, including any of the 2-a-day, every day that I've been putting out over the last couple of weeks, then be sure to check out the boxes on screen. Thanks again, and I'll see you all next time.